Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. It's always great to be here with you for another Fitness Friday episode. Today is Tuesday, March 17th. I'm doing this in advance this week. So anything that I say, particularly around my handling of this, my fitness and my workouts regarding the coronavirus is subject to change here in the next couple of days. But certainly I want to kick off this episode certainly by recognizing and thanking just our first responders around the globe who are dealing with this challenging situation, and each and every one of us is being impacted by this situation in one way or another. And I pray that you and your family, if you and your families are well and healthy and doing your best to certainly manage the circumstances that we are all dealing with. And so keep on keeping on, keep on hanging in there. And I'm going to continue this series here on leadership. But I wanted to jumpstart things. As some of you may know, certainly it's true in some of the other states. Again, today is Tuesday. Things are subject to change by the day. The state of Michigan closed, all gyms are closed currently. And so you heard me talk about on last episode, I had some plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F regarding how I was going to deal with this situation as my fitness was not going to go by the wayside during this crisis situation gripping our nation and the world. So I had some backup plans, and this morning I actually went on over to, went all the way down, skipped some, because all of our gyms are closed, some of the other options were not possible, but went on down to plan F, which is Rachelle, until further notice, until the gyms reopen, is now a mall walker at 12 Oaks Mall here in Novi-Michigan. So the doors open for us. Of course, the security opens them all at 7:45, but walkers can start at 8 a.m. I got there at 9, well, for about an hour and 20 minutes, which is the same total amount of cardio that I do on a daily basis whenever I work out. So you know me, I'm passionate about cardio. So I had to keep that going and actually come home. And I've got a jump rope, I've got an agility speed ladder, I've got my baton, I've got, yoga mat, yoga blocks, certainly things to do, resistance bands. So I've got my bag of tricks actually that I used to bring to Powerhouse years ago. Actually pull that bag back out. So do some things at home. So I'm making things happen, and let me tell you, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have the mall currently to be able to go and get some exercise in. And so, folks, if it's important to you, you'll make it happen. Even if it's running out, somebody can run outside. That's more of a challenge for me because, again, we are in Michigan. I am in Michigan. We are still in winter, so it's still cold, and my body does not do well, being outside for a long time when it's really cold. So that's my situation, and I was heartened when I saw this article that came out this morning here in the Detroit Free Press by J.C. Rendell. And the title of this article is Michigan Gym Goers Race to Get Last Workouts In Before 2-Week Closure. And I was so heartened when I saw this because, yes, I had my final workout there at Planet Fitness in Commerce before the gym closing announcements were made. So I got that workout in. Friday, had an opportunity. I was in Westland for an appointment. I'm never in Westland, so stopped in and worked out at the PF Planet Fitness Westland location, and got another great leadership example. Talk about the trainer at that particular location. I'm going to table that for next week or the following week, but I will come back to that. Hadn't been to that location in a year, so certainly it was an encore performance. You remember when I talked about my visit there in March of 2019? It was an encore performance there in March of 2020. So anyway, I'll talk more about that on another episode. But back to this article. So it's talking about, and I really appreciated seeing this. It highlighted LA Fitness, one of our local, which is very, very big, very popular gym in the Royal Oak, Michigan location. This is a signature club of theirs. But it highlighted some folks who were, just as the article alluded to, were very passionate about fitness enthusiasts who were getting their last workouts in. And I'll read a little bit of it before I move on into some of these leadership, issues that I'm going to be discussing during this series. But I thought it was just so interesting because, again, from a leadership perspective, These are folks that remain committed despite, some of the challenges. And so some of them talked about some of their plans and things that they were going to do moving forward, which certainly included continuing their fitness regimens and alternative sites and alternative methods. So it was just great to see. But anyway, it says Governor, again, this appeared on Tuesday, the 17th of May. Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Monday gave Michiganders a very good excuse to skip the gym. Under the same executive order that closed bars, casinos, and non-carry-out restaurants through March 30th to slow the spread of coronavirus, the governor ordered all gyms and fitness centers shut for 2 weeks. The order was announced in the late morning and took effect at 3 p.m., which prompted fitness enthusiasts such as Justin Pritchett to race to get to their nearest gym before the long shutdown. The shutdown doesn't lift until 12:01 a.m. March 31st. I'm only here because I just found out they're closing and I'm trying to get one more workout in, Pritchett said as he hustled towards the large and popular LA Fitness location on Woodward and Royal Oak. In interviews, he and other frequent gym goers described seeing fewer people in the gym during the past week, likely due to coronavirus fears and also extra cleaning inside the gym and locker rooms by staff. They also reported seeing some individuals wearing face masks and surgical gloves as they use the exercise equipment. It's been about half the people as usual in there since this whole thing has been going down, said Nico Giancopoulos, 23, of Royal Oak. Miguel Quinn, 28, a fitness instructor and personal trainer at the LA Fitness, said he understands the reasoning for the statewide shutdown, but believes it could nevertheless have a negative impact on some individuals' mental health during the coronavirus crisis because the gym helps many people relieve stress. This is a lot of people's therapy, he said. Quinn said the 2-week closure will also have an impact on his income, but he expects to be fine as long as it isn't extended for for months. And so anyway, there's a little bit more to that article, but just highlighting the fact that some fitness enthusiasts were certainly planning on continuing their workouts and moving forward for the next couple of weeks here or so. And so that was that. I could certainly relate when I read that and I said, oh man, I know exactly how they feel. But you do what you got to do. Got to be willing to change things up and remain committed to your fitness. Whenever and however you get it done, folks, just get it done. Just get it done to the best of your ability during these challenging times. So now on to leadership. Back to these leadership lessons. Today, I want to discuss purpose as it relates to leadership. Purpose as it relates to leadership. Because it is so important. And I've talked about this indirectly, in a number of episodes. It comes out in HR or human resources type of episodes, as well as leadership episodes and Non-Fitness Friday, career and purpose, all of that life type of episodes. And so this is such an important topic, and it is so crucial, particularly to leadership, as it relates to purpose and having a sense of purpose, operating with a sense of purpose, and not having misguided purpose, misguided focus. It is just so important that we try to have synergy between our purpose and our leadership roles, because I'm going to give you some examples from my own life. So we're going to talk about some examples in my life where perhaps my focus was not there, I had misguided focus, next time we're going to talk about some of the more positive examples where I had more positive alignment regarding leadership and purpose. Because it is extremely difficult to operate, particularly as a leader when you're out front, leading people, leading organizations, leading groups, teams, whatever the case may be, and your heart is not in it. Your heart is not in it. And this is something that is definitely an issue. We look at the turnover in the fitness industry, particularly on the commercial side. This is something that is true in fitness as it is in all other fields, careers, and industries. We have to make sure that we are aligned with our purpose and do what we need to do in order to ensure that we are leading with integrity, that we are leading with purpose, that we are leading with passion. Because if we lack those, it is painfully obvious to those people that we are charged with leading and they're certainly following us, whatever the case may be. We may be able to smile and play the game and wear masks, but that is very challenging to do indefinitely. I mean, there's gonna be cracks. There's gonna be cracks in that armor, in that fake armor, and those fake smiles, and that fake attitude. The creaks are gonna start to show, and all of that. So we don't want to be in that position. And so, as a backdrop, always, we think about this theme of purpose and leadership, and how many times have I talked about the Jim Collins book, Good to Great? But I told you, I got this LSU Tigers branded steering wheel cover for the holidays, and I am making use of this baby, particularly on these Posi-TIPS episodes, because it really just, really drives the point, pun intended, drives the points home that I want to make. So, but when we think about, again, wherever we're trying to be, so when I think about, I'm going to use some examples from my own life here in this episode. So when I think about my own life, and I think about, how I've grown over the years, and what my values and how my values have evolved, and my purpose has evolved, and just my self-awareness and authenticity has certainly evolved. And authenticity is so important. We're talking about purpose and leadership. It is so important that we're authentic, because that's how you end up in these situations and leadership roles, doing things that are not in alignment with your values and who you are as a person. And the less secure we are, we don't know ourselves well, or we try to be who someone else wants us to be or thinks we should be, that is a recipe for poor leadership. That is a recipe for an unhappy life, quite frankly, professionally as well as personally. So we always want to be authentic. So I'm going to share some examples. And so when I think about my own life and think about my own growth as it relates to authenticity over the years, and we think about, number one, with the Jim Collins, okay, so number one, we want to have the right people on the bus. So driving the bus, driving to the destination, we think about, I'm going to apply this to my own life. So Rachelle's life. So driving to the destination of happiness, success, all of that, whatever the case may be, driving along. So we think about how Jim Collins said, number one, let me put this over here actually, we want to make sure we have the right people on the bus. Number two, we want to have the right people in the right seats. Number three, we want to have the wrong people off the bus. So we think about, when I reflect on my own life, when I think about some of the buses, figuratively speaking, when I think about some of the buses that I've been on, some of the seats that I've been on, and how there have been instances where I had to get off the bus because it was not a good fit. This is something we all are challenged to do, and it takes courage to be able to, particularly to get off the wrong bus. When you realize that whether it be an organization, a position, a leadership role, whatever the case may be, is not a good fit, you've got to be willing to step aside and just be honest with yourself, but also be honest with people around you. Yeah, they may be disappointed, and then, oh, I can't believe you're doing this, and try to guilt trip you, but folks, you got to keep it moving. We if there's one thing our society needs, it is folks that are not afraid to be who they are, right? To be authentic and say, hey, this is me, this is not me, whatever the case may be. This is how it is, and this is who I am, these are my values, it is what it is, and bam. And so when I think about my own life and just roles and leadership roles, when I focus on leadership roles, particularly in this episode, some where I've thrived and some certainly where I've not thrived, I actually wore this so I wouldn't forget, and I'm starting off with this one, because this is what I'm dropping in, as I talked about. See, it says election official Rachelle Smith. In the bottom, may I help you? So I worked the Michigan primary for one of our precincts here in Michigan. I was at the 13th precinct. And so I told you in the last episode that I had a blast. I actually had a blast. And I remember, and it's so funny, and I got a message, so it was Monday the 16th of March. Got a message from Casey and Kathy Crawford, one of the Novi residents, but she's also our 38th district rep, or state rep here for the 38th district here in Michigan. And so got a message from her saying, you are forever the optimist. You are the only poll worker, I'm sure, that felt like it was a blast. She said, only you, ha ha ha. And it's so true. I mean, it was an absolute blast. I really enjoyed it. But what I want to talk about is when I'm gonna utilize again this Jim Collins framework, being on the bus, in the right seat, and getting off the bus, all that, being on the right bus. This is going to apply to every example I give in this episode. And so when I think about how I volunteered, and as I shared 2-3 episodes ago, my perspective on leadership, and this has grown. I mean, this has evolved over the years. Leadership for me, years ago used to be about title, used to be about prestige and recognition, yada, yada, yada. But now for me, leadership is simply helping people. I shared this on a previous episode, helping people. I view leadership, I'm always saying, how can I help in this situation? Whether it's a person, whether it's community, whether it's a client, whether it's an organization or corporation. What can I do to help? How can I help someone? And that, by just having that mindset, I naturally gravitate and lean towards leadership roles. And so for me, they were looking for the city of Novi, as is true, of course, across the nation, looking for poll workers. Sent out a message looking for people to work the polls. They were expecting a lot of turnout. We did have record turnout. So had an opportunity. So I said, hey, add my name to the list. Completed the form, sent it in, and Courtney Hanson, who's our city clerk, I got the approval letter, and this is what you have to do, and this is the training schedule and all of that. So it was an opportunity for me. I didn't just wake up and say, now how am I going to take a leadership role in the city of Novi, Michigan? Nope. I saw the email. I said, hey, this is an opportunity. It works with my schedule. I can help. The city needs help, and I'm willing to help the city. And so I did so, and I had a blast. I had an absolute blast. So when you think about, again, being on the right bus, yes, I love Novi. I'm very, just really smitten, always have been since I moved here. I'm in '09, very smitten with my community, with my suburb. And so I'm definitely, figuratively speaking, I'm on the right bus. I'm very pleased with my city, very pleased with the experience that I've had as a resident here in Novi. So it was very easy for me to do that. Imagine if I were disgruntled or unhappy and had all these issues, that wouldn't have been, it would have been a tougher decision for me to step up and say, hey, I'm willing to give back and serve this city. But these are the kind of things we need to think about, as we are, moving and navigating throughout our lives. So said yes. Now we talk about, want to park here, pun intended, want to park right here on this second one, which is, making sure you have the right people in the right seats. So that was my very first time working an election, and I had a wonderful experience. But I also now, again, having this self-awareness to realize part of the reason why I had such a wonderful experience is because from a volunteer assignment perspective that morning, I was placed in the right seat. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. So Vitas was our chair, was our precinct chair. And so he was randomly assigning people. And so he said, okay, Rachelle, why don't you go to the table where they fill out this little sheet of paper, which is, where they have to write their name, address, date of birth, and sign. And they take that sheet of paper along with their driver's license over to the next table, which is where they've got the ballots and all of that. They're handing people the ballots over at that next station. But the very first station, and I actually had to fill in for her as she took a lunch break or something else she had to run. So I was really working in between, floating between the first check-in table. So station 1, check in, show your driver's license, picture ID, whatever the case may be, and they verify in the computer that you're in the right precinct. So enter that information, it'll show, yes, this person is in precinct 13, this is their voting location. If it's not, then tell them where their precinct is and where they need to go. So I was assigned to the second station, but I was also helping in the first station as well when she needed to leave. Then the third station was the ballot station. All right, and the next station were the actual voting machines, and the final station was, the folks had to tear off the top of their ballot that had the ballot number, hand them to the last person there. One of Teddy Lee was working that station. Actually, he was working that station all day, and so that was the last station. So the people put their ballots into the machine, and it kind of was like a Scantron in a way, and it tabulates the votes. Hand that information as well as that sheet of paper that they completed at my table that had their name, address, signature, date of birth. Hand that to Teddy. Hand the top of that ballot that had the ballot number that they tore off. Hand those to, get their I voted sticker, and they're out of the door. So going back to the right seat, being in the right seat. And I look back now because I was at the table where I was able, and again, filling in with the check-ins as well throughout the day. I was in a situation in some seats, a couple of seats, more so in the second station seat all day. I was in some seats where I was able to interact with people a lot. All right, it was, filling in their information. I was giving them instructions on what to do and telling them about the next step. So I was at an opportunity, I was in a seat that I was able to interact with people a lot. I was able to move around a lot, and it just, I gotta tell you this because it's so funny. I was having flashbacks. Because if you'll recall a number of episodes ago when I was talking about, again, being in the right seats and all of that, so when I had flashbacks to my days, my initial, I guess it was about a year, I was a cashier, Army and Air Force Exchange Service at Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, which is essentially a military, just think of a military retail store. That's the simplest way to put it. So I was a cashier. And so you know how I feel about freedom and just not being tied down. And it really reared its head when I was in that particular position. I can look back now with an enhanced sense of self-awareness and say, I understand exactly why I would hear my name at least 2 or 3 times a week over the intercom system. Rachelle Smith, please return to your register. Rachelle Smith, please return to your register. Because I would be off in another department, chatting with coworkers, people working in other departments. I was helping customers find stuff. I was standing in the aisles, talking to people if I knew them, whatever. So they would have to call me back to my register sometimes. And so the same thing happened at this, on election day. Now, of course, we didn't have the PA systems, but so I was walking around talking to the other poll workers at the different stations throughout the day. I was talking to some staff members of the precinct, the actual location where we were. I recognized people that I knew, obviously from the community. There were people from Powerhouse that I didn't know that were approaching me saying, oh, you used to work out at Powerhouse. Where you been? What's going on? Where are you working out now? So I spent a lot of time that day talking to people, but I was in my element. I was in the right seat. And so I would be off somewhere, perhaps at the last station, chatting with that precinct worker at that station, chatting, but I was keeping an eye. I did a pretty good job of keeping an eye on my own station. So when I would see someone coming in, I was able to scurry back over to my station, or if I was filling in at the very first check-in station, watching out for people, but I was definitely chatting it up all day. Charismatic Rachelle had a blast. But see, that's why I recognize that. If I would have been at that next station, at the ballot station, that requires a lot of just intense focus and precision to assign the ballots and make sure everything lines up. Now, for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who watch me long enough, I think you realize that I'm a very highly detail-oriented person. So in the absence of being constantly interrupted in a situation like that, I would have no problem being assigned to a station like that. But you're constantly being interrupted. You have to get up and go to this station or that station, or call the clerk's office with a question about this particular voter. And so it's just constant, you don't have the ability to intensely, quietly focus. And I know in that type of situation where there's kind of all this stuff going on around, I would have been distracted. It would have been just too easy for me to lose focus and get distracted. And those ballot situations, that is not the place you need to be, if that's an issue for you. So if I would have been assigned to that table, I would have been assertive and spoken up and like, hey, being tied down at this ballot table is not a good mix for me or for you or just for this whole situation. I need to be in another situation where I'm more mobile and I can chat with people and all of that, help people that need help, answer questions. So that one, or even the last station, where they've they've submitted their ballot to the machine, and I've got to, take their little sheet of paper that they filled out and the top of their thing and then hand them the sticker. It just was not enough interaction. Because at that point, they were ready to go. They had already voted. They were ready to go. But I recognize those first two, whether I'm checking in, somebody is a fill-in, greeting the people, asking how they're doing, reading their body language, making appropriate comments based on their body language when I see them walking in. It was wonderful. But see, had I not been in the seats that was assigned to that day, I'm sure I would not. If I would have been assigned to the ballot table, I'm sure my feedback, my perspective would not be as positive. I'm just sure. But you see, it's nothing wrong with the assignment or the station or the step in the voting process at the precinct. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just me based on my wiring, my makeup, my personality, what's important for me. And I recognized that I was keeping an eye on my table like, whoops, gotta go. I see somebody over there. And a couple times, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, people would be standing at my table looking around like, okay, so what am I supposed to do next? But they weren't waiting there that long because I was able to run over and scurry over back to the table. But had a wonderful experience. I talked to a lot of people that day, Novi neighbors, people I didn't know, and all of that. And like I said, some powerhouse folks recognized me, and some of them let me know, you are Miss, whatever, this and that, where are you at now? And so we talked about that, and so just a wonderful day. But that's an example. We need to think about, yes, not only in our current role or position, whatever your job is, your responsibilities, yes, the importance of having purpose, operating with purpose, and being in the right seat, but also just having that authenticity to say, okay, what are strengths and weaknesses that I'm bringing to the equation in this situation? Like for me, being tied down, doing something highly detailed and analytical with constant interruptions, that would have been a challenge for me. In a different environment, that type of focus would have been very easy for me, but not in that type of situation. In this type of situation, I think I was absolutely in the right role, making people feel welcome and, appreciated. Thank you all for voting and all of that. It was great. There was one man, and I was standing there chatting with the check-in lady after she came back from lunch. I'll tell you this, and I'm going to move on to another example. So I'm standing there talking to her. So we're a few feet away, I don't know, maybe 20 feet away from the door. And this guy comes in, and I had on my LSU hat, and he says, oh, well, LSU, well, actually a few people did that, but he said, LSU must be nice to be sporting apparel from a championship team. And I said, yes, sir, they worked very hard. It was just really great to see them take the championship. And so he says, show off. It was like, let me tell you. So then he went on, and so I cracked up. I thought it was funny, and he was dead serious. So then he went on, proceeded, and voted through all the steps, all this and that. And then he comes back out, and I'm back again talking to the first station person. And then so he walks out, he's walking out, then he stops, and then looks at me again, kind of deadpans on me and says, show off. And then walks out the door. So it was fun. I had so much fun. But again, it was a good fit. So we need to make sure our sense of purpose, if you hate your company, if you hate your fitness facility, if you have issues with leadership and you don't want to be in that role, it is going to be reflected in terms of what is happening in your facility. Is it full of chaos? Is it full of drama? Is it full of turnover? I mean, these are all symptoms of a bigger problem. Yes, we're going to talk further in this series about what is your problem. I'm going to bring back that subject again. We're going to talk about it. But the problem, it cannot be, yes, if you've had a turnover of just say 80% each year in the last 5 years, you think about it, if all these different people have come and gone, and you're the only common denominator, okay, chances are the problem likely isn't all of these other people. The chances are that there could be something wrong. There could be some leadership challenges, some leadership deficiencies, leadership development opportunities there. So we have to make sure we're focusing on the right problem. But if you don't want to be in the role that you're in, I mean, and this is true in the fitness industry, definitely. You got fitness leaders, you got fitness trainers, personal trainers, group fitness instructors that don't even take their own fitness, health and wellness seriously. And how can that person be in a role, in a leadership role, particularly, you can't take someone as a leader further than you are yourself. So if you, as a fitness leader, particularly as a trainer, as a group fitness instructor, as a general manager, don't exercise at all and have no fitness regimen or routine, how can you expect anybody else, particularly those subordinates that you have or members that you have? We're all setting examples. That's what leadership is. What kind of example are we setting? And so if you've got someone in these roles and they're not into fitness, they heard about it paid well, and you don't have to have a degree, it doesn't take a degree to get a certification, that type of issue is a problem in the industry that certainly needs to get addressed. But that's an example of folks operating without a sense of purpose. Yeah, they want the money, yeah, they want the paycheck, but the fitness industry is unique in that how we feel about our fitness, how we feel about our health and wellness is visually apparent. It is. I realize this can be a delicate subject, but it is what it is. It is what it is, and you can see. You can look at people and tell they're passionate about their fitness and take it seriously, as versus those who don't. And I think those of us, all of us in leadership roles, we've got to make sure we're doing our part and setting a good example for others. And so I want to give you, moving on now to the next example, where there was a misalignment of my purpose and leadership. So I'm going to tell you about a time in my life that was very challenging, right here in Metro Detroit. Rachelle, some of you know me. If you know me long enough, you were aware of this and you knew about the trials and tribulations I went through this. Rachelle served, I guess it was a total of about a year, as a youth mentor at my church. So it was a Christian debutantes program at my church in Southfield. Out of respect for the pastor and the pastoral team, as well as all the members and even the participants that were Christian debutantes. I won't say the name of the church, but stepped up. Again, the church made a call. We're looking for people to mentor the young people preparing for this program, yada, yada, yada. And so, folks, and I'm just going to cut through some steps because it's a long story. But when I think about that decision, again, I've grown, I've evolved. So this was 2011 to 2012. So when I look back now, I have a much more clarity now and self-awareness of that. And I realize, because think about it, you all, if you've watched me for at least 3 episodes, you've probably heard me mention that the number one thing in my life is very important to me is my freedom, right? My freedom. And number 2 is change. All right. So the freedom aspect, and you can see how being a youth mentor it challenges your sense of freedom. All right. And let me preface this, that I spent a number of years as mentoring college students. I love mentoring college students. It was wonderful. Again, there was an alignment there. I'm very passionate about higher education, was very passionate about my collegiate experiences. So I served as a college mentor and loved every second of it. And so I thought, oh yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. This is going to be just as easy and just as purposeful as mentoring college students. And it is, and it would have been in my case, if it had been part of my purpose. There was a misalignment there. And I made the decision, and I want you all to really get a hold of this one right here, because this is true in my case as a youth mentor, when I was a former youth mentor. But people make these type of decisions every single day, as leaders and as in non-leadership roles as well. I made that decision. Yes, I realized the church needed help. But I made that decision based on guilt. And you say, Rachelle, what are you talking about? You made that decision based on guilt. The reason why I'm telling you I made that decision based on guilt is because I recognize, and we are often exposed and told about just some of the challenges that many youth have in this country, and just youth around the world, quite frankly. Some of the challenges in their teenage years and their upbringing and all of this, some neglect and rejection and abandonment and all of that. So I personally felt very guilty because for those who don't know, and I've alluded to this on a number of episodes, and people are always saying, Rachelle, you're just such a great daughter. You're just such a great daughter. You just love your parents and you love your family. And I absolutely do. I absolutely do. But what folks don't realize behind the scenes is my parents, in terms of, you want to talk about purpose, they viewed being parents as their number one priority. You talk about a sense of purpose, parenting was it. And I say this with humility, and I say this respectfully, but my parents were not interested in chasing the moving up the career ladder at the expense of us, they're being there for us and all of that. And so parenting was first for them. So they were always there. I had a wonderful childhood where my parents were always there. And I actually have a presentation, a speech called The Power of Presence. And that's what I talk about. The power of presence. Being there. Whether I was in a track meet, swim team meet, a softball game, spelling bee, just anything, garage sale, whatever the case may be, going out shopping. And I was a daddy's girl, so I was with my dad at car lots, and he's watching him wheel and deal and buying a car. And guess what now? I love car shopping. I mean, I love to negotiate. I don't care whether I'm buying a condo, buying a house, buying a car. I love that. I really do. I love that. And with my dad at Napa Auto Parts. So yeah, people call me Miss Versatility because I can do all of this kind of stuff, but that's because I was exposed to so much growing up. But that sense of purpose. So I was like, man, my parents always been there. So I am always going to be there for them as well. So that's, for those of you who may be like, man, she goes to Louisiana a lot. And this and that, you may not understand what's behind all of that. Okay, my parents were and are outstanding. I mean, were absolutely outstanding. So when I see people that didn't have that type of childhood, or one or both of their parents are not there for them, I feel that I used to have a false sense of responsibility, and I would feel guilty and say, you know what, they didn't have what I had, they don't have what I have, and I just, what can I do? And that's wonderful for people who are driven by a true sense of purpose and not guilt. Because if I was driven by a sense of purpose, I would still be a youth mentor today. And then this, of course, is just a quick digression, but parents, please recognize, if there's one thing that I knew, I did not like that experience being a youth mentor at all, but it taught me a lot. It made me a better person. It developed my character, because I can now understand, again, what parents go through and all of this and that. It's a lot, and you're dealing particularly with the teenage years where they're just self-absorbed and self-centered, and it's all about them. And I'm not used to having people like that in my life. I'm used to more net reciprocity, when people have matured. So that was just, a constant text, and the early text while I'm at the gym at 5 in the morning when I was at Powerhouse. It was just crazy. And I used to go to the hair salon, Visions Spa Salon here in Novi, and Michelle L. Gamble, hairstylist there. She's actually still there. And I would, every Saturday, I would come in there and complain about being a youth mentor. And I'll never forget. And she brought such clarity to my life by asking this one question. Rachelle, and she was just as innocent and sincere as you want to be when she asked it. Now, at the time, she had a 12-year-old daughter. And now she's got a younger child now in kindergarten. But she said, Rachelle, what is the difference between being a mentor and a parent? So in that one question, it hit me like a ton of bricks when she asked me that. And so it brought to light, it brought such clarity that I was doing way too much. Rachelle is an overachiever. So I'm always going to do 2,000% in any endeavor that I do. So I was doing too much, picking up kids, dropping off kids, getting these early morning texts while I'm at the gym, just getting bothered at all hours. It was crazy. It was crazy looking back now, but I take full responsibility for that. I had weak boundaries. I wasn't saying no at the time. I had a false sense of responsibility, but I woke up one morning in April of 2012 and just said, you know what, Rachelle, you don't have to do this another day. You're not responsible. Rachelle, you have 0 children. You have 0 responsibility in all of this. This is not a good situation for your life. Your life is crazy. You were stressed out, and you have 0 responsibility in these situations. So that was the end of that. But it all started, like I said, it made me a better person. It all started because I felt guilty, because other people didn't have what I had growing up and have now. So it taught me, again, just the value of the power of presence, of being there and recognizing, because I was able to interact with folks where one or both parents aren't there, or neglecting, and kids are getting neglected, or people running businesses and, they're never home, and all of this kind of stuff. It deeply impacts an individual, particularly when they're young in their formative years. And so that really taught me a lot, because now, and I'm in a situation where I'm evaluating or working with a trainee person, working with a salesperson, for example, and that person, an individual may struggle with confidence, and then I can ask some questions and learn. Okay, this person learned back when they were 16. They felt that they didn't matter. They felt that they didn't have the right to ask for anything. So now as a sales role, they fear rejection, and it's very, very difficult. But that started early on when mom was too busy trying to climb the corporate ladder and dad was too busy trying to buy the biggest house on the block. You know, with all due respect to all of us have goals and all of us have ambitions, but if there's one thing I learned from that experience, and even me now being able to share this with you, I mean, I realized that there's positive that has come out of that. It was a very challenging time in my life, folks. It was challenging. I was unhappy with that situation. I used to complain a lot. And for those of you who don't know, like, Rachelle is not a complainer. So my hairstylist used to hear it every Saturday. So I'd sit down in that chair and I would start unloading about what had happened that past week. And so that was that. But see, again, for me, there was no sense of purpose in that. There was no sense of purpose in that. Yes, as a college mentor, college students, you know, young men and young women in college had goals and dreams and ambitions and reaching the next level. Absolutely. Mentored a lot of people in that particular space. All right, but they just take it down a level to high school, and that was just not a good fit for me. That was not a good fit for me. But I learned something, you know, life is trial and error, folks. Sometimes we learn what we are not meant to do, what is not within our purpose and our assignment, based on making those wrong decisions. But see, that's why I'm saying, again, going back to Jim Collins, the ability to get the wrong people off the bus. So see, I got off that bus. I'm done. I'm not mentoring any of you anymore. I changed my number. Don't anyone contact me ever again. I was so done. I was so done. I was so done. I was so done, folks. And so, but that let me know, and folks actually told me, you know what, Rachelle, you were a great mentor. And, you know, you really were. And that's, I guess, that's some consolation that, you know, folks within the program told me that. And it just wonderful, got positive feedback on me. And that's wonderful. But I was done. It's over. It was a wrap. But that's an example. And the last example I want to leave with you here is, and I've alluded to this before, when I've talked about, you know, sense of purpose, particularly leadership purpose, talked about my career goal of joining the military. I was going to join the Army, and how I made that decision. Think about why we make decisions in life, folks. So here I was in high school, Yongsan, Seoul, Korea. Yongsan was the name of the base. Yongsan Army Garrison. My dad was civil service at that time. So we were in Korea. So I had a summer job. That was a summer after my 9th grade year. I had a summer job. And so I worked in the CID, the Central Investigative Division. So that's part of the police, or the military police, MP. So had a wonderful time that summer, had a blast, enjoyed working with those people, learned so much. It was really, really good summer. But when you think about a sense of purpose, you know, when I said, you know what, and so my 11th grade year, I signed up, I said, yeah, okay, we gotta get ready for this military career. I'm gonna take JROTC, and we're just gonna make it happen. And let me stop here for a second, as I always do. I love this country. I love our military and veterans. My dad is a Navy veteran. My brother is an Army veteran. And we have a number of veterans in our family. JROTC is a wonderful program at schools across this nation, and actually Department of Defense schools around the world. But it was not a good fit for me. That's all I'm saying. So I signed up for JROTC, and it was rough. It was rough because it was there that I learned that I was a non-conformist. So I failed the very first inspection because I refused to shine my shoes, because, you know, I want to wear what I want to wear. I want to do what I want to do. I want to wear my hair the way I want to wear my hair. But see, for folks who are driven by a sense of purpose, they have no problem. Yes, I'm going to wear my uniform. It's going to look spiffy. It's going to be well ironed. It's going to look great. If you need me to go serve in this country or go to this war, if you're driven by a sense of purpose, that will be easy for you. That will be easy, but just no problem. Let's go. All right. But somebody like me, and there's a lot of people like me that are like, no, I want to live what I want to live, and I want to work where I want to work. You know, then the military in the United States or any other country is not a career for you. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying is you gotta, when we are driven by a sense of purpose, no matter what sacrifices we have to make, no matter what we have to do, it is certainly far easier. Yes, you may not be cheering up and down when you have to make those sacrifices, but you will realize that it's worth it because you were driven by a sense of purpose. You were driven by a sense of purpose. So for me, there I was in JROTC, and typical Rachelle at the time stepped up, wanted to be on the color guard. So long story short, Rachelle was a member of the color guard for that year, for that entire year. So this is what I'm saying when we're in a leadership role. So here I was in JROTC, struggling being in JROTC in the first place. And now I'm in a leadership role in this situation, which made it twice as hard and twice as challenging. Because the truth of the matter is, I didn't want to be there. And now I'm in a role where I'm in a leadership role where I've really got to play the role and pretend to be there when I really don't. So we think about the decisions. Yes, some inspiration and some good times in Korea that summer made me make that decision. And I do have to give myself some slack. I mean, when you're that young, we don't know ourselves very well. We don't have a level of self-awareness. We're not secure enough in who we are in terms of strengths and weaknesses to recognize what would be a good fit and what wouldn't be a good fit. But when I took that JROTC class, folks, I learned real quick. So, and I honor and I respect folks that have made that sacrifice and served our country, served their respective countries around the world, and veterans as well as active duty. Wonderful thing. I'm patriotic. That's great. But in terms of me being a good fit, folks, it was not. So that's all I'm saying is we have to make sure that we're driven. Our leadership roles are driven by a sense of purpose. Whatever you have to do, when you're driven by a sense of purpose, like I am now for what I do, that's why, for example, I get on here and I do Fitness Fridays and I'm generous with my time and I'm pretty generous with my content, but I'm not crazy. All right. But that's because I'm driven by a sense of purpose. There's nothing better than what I'm doing right now. There's just nothing. So we all need to reach that point in life where we say, how can my sense of purpose and my values, all of that passion, line up with leadership roles? Because I could give you some more examples when I've been misaligned in terms of my purpose. But we need to ask ourselves, particularly, why am I taking on this leadership role? Am I truly sincere about the organization, the cause, the company, corporation, mission for fitness leaders? Am I truly passionate about fitness, the health and wellness of myself and other people? Because if you're not, being in a role where you're expected to be, that's going to be very challenging. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be tough. All right, so we've got to make sure that we're operating with the right motives, particularly as leaders. Because if we're operating with wrong motives, and if somebody's just in it to get a paycheck and they have no interest in people, particularly in a leadership role, that is a challenge. So ask yourself, regardless, you don't have to be, remember, leadership is not about title. I used to think it was. Many people still think it is. It's not about title and having a corner office and how much money you make. All right, it's being passionate and committed about each of the individual leadership roles that you have in your life. As you've heard me allude to today, parenting. So important from a leadership perspective. I mean, if there's one thing, just my parents being there, they really set me up well in childhood. Yeah, my life isn't perfect and I have my own trials and tribulations as a human like everyone else, but I just realized that childhood, always making decisions with family first. All right, we moved to Korea. My dad was civil service. He applied for that job overseas. We were in Biloxi, Mississippi at the time. He was civil service there at Keesler Air Force Base. He applied for that job. Why? He said, Rachelle, now we look back now with a lot more clarity. I wanted you and your brother, my sister's much older, so she stayed in Mississippi. I wanted you and Oscar to be exposed to something different. So he sacrificed where he and my mom were, right there at Keesler, had been there for a number of years. He wanted to give us a better life, a unique experience, and he truly did. He and my mom truly did. That was a big sacrifice. When we left Korea, why did we leave Korea and end up in Shreveport, Bossier City, Louisiana? Because Shreveport, Bossier, Louisiana was the closest, Barksdale Air Force Base was the closest base. He was a civil service at the time. It was the closest base, 3 hours away, 3.5 hours away from Greenville, Mississippi, which is where my parents were raised and born, and that's where the majority of the family was based. Another decision based on family. We could have gone to Baltimore, we could have gone to Columbus, Ohio, but he made that decision. He wanted to be close to Mississippi, close to home, family. All right, so folks, parenting is so important from a leadership perspective. But each and every leadership role, everything that we do and we endeavor, let's make sure our sense of purpose is there, because no matter what we have to do, no matter what sacrifices we have to make, we'll do it. We'll make it happen. We'll do it with joy. we'll do it with joy. I come on here every Fitness Friday with joy. I really appreciate this opportunity to serve you and to challenge you. Like many of you are not being challenged because you have people around you that want to keep their jobs, rightfully so. So folks, that is it for today. Hang in there with this coronavirus situation. Let's continue keeping on. Let's keep on keeping on, doing the best that we can in each and every day. And I look forward to continuing this leadership conversation next week. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness, leadership, and success. Make it a great day.